I think it's outstanding. I really do think it's outstanding. So yeah, partially because I also spoke. I think that's there. But I think overall, I think we had a massively power-packed panel list yesterday. So we had Samar Hayat from Tapal, we had Aziz, we had Amir from Unilever, we had Farheen here from Lipton. We had David from all the way from London, and throughout his life he's done some great work. So we had a talk yesterday in terms of time he's done with Coca-Cola, the people that he's connected with, some John Haggerty, all those kind of top people. He showed his kind of podcast list. He's done the podcast with the who's of marketing. So we had a really kind of a star-studded cast yesterday, and I think the content that came out was pretty interesting as well. So the panel talk was amazing. The content that came from Summer was amazing. So I think I really loved the platform yesterday. Today, I think we have some really good people coming, and we have the Rit bot. I'm really looking forward to it because I fed a few kind of questions in there, and I'm interested is the Rit bot as profane as Ritson himself or not? Does he swear in the in his responses or not? He should, because that's very on character Mark Ritson. So I think we have, and today we have Mike. I'm really looking forward to his session because David was like, he does outstanding sessions and stuff. So we have some really good cast over here today and yesterday. And what I would recommend all of our marketing people, the people who missed out over here, don't. I think this is one community, one kind of event will pulls together all our community and stuff. So I would really want next year going forward to all the companies which weren't here to send their marketers, not just the young marketers, maybe the old marketers, because they will learn from each other as well. I think I would say that if I look at it from the perspective of FEs, I think that the key one would remain pretty consistent across the markets and stuff. And I think the biggest one would be the impact on the business, because I think anything creative for the sake of creativity doesn't help, because we're not in the movie making business, to be absolutely honest. We're in the business of selling whatever we are selling. So whether that's shampoos or mobiles or whatever. So if it's not delivering results, then frankly speaking, it's a bit of a waste. So I think the key thing for me in terms of whatever work, award-winning work, or award-worthy work, is that that builds business for you, and builds business for you not in the short term but over a long period of time. So I think that would be the key factor for me: business building, and business building in terms of profitability, in terms of your revenue, in terms of share, but especially in terms of your penetration, because I think we saw yesterday as well that the key to driving long-term sustainable growth is penetration. So these said it in the morning as well, that the key thing is the more number of people use you. And here I would just like to, I said it in my talk as well, that the key for most brands to grow is through penetration. And penetration, the difference between a small brand and a top brand, the penetration index can be like 10x. So if something is at a 2 penetration, a top brand can be at 20. Whereas in a lot of categories, the frequency doesn't vary that much. So for example, if the frequency of usage is like 2 times a year, 3 times a year for a bottom brand, for a top brand, it just might be 3.6. So again, this is something that we call the double jeopardy law. This comes from the Edinburgh Bass team or Institute in University of South Australia. It's very well documented. It works across categories and stuff. So again, just to summarize, business building, profitability, revenue, and especially penetration. So I think there were quite a few. We talked about FEs yesterday as well. So I'll name a few campaigns. And again, because I had the honor of being the FE judge last year, so I went through a lot of the cases. Even the presentation that I made for that, I went through a lot of good cases. So I think one of the ones that I really liked was, and I talked about this yesterday, is the Dalda campaign. So Dalda campaign, where they talked about Jahan Dalda Wahan Mamta. The reason I liked the campaign is overall, I think there was a framework that I shared yesterday, which was called the CLEAR kind of a framework. It's like my thing that I just put together. But the first thing is the creative work that leads to emotions. So I think the Jahan Dalda Wahan Mamta, I think it was executed very well in terms of having Fawad Khan and all the kind of actors. But again, it was not leaning on Fawad Khan. What it was leaning on was the story of the ad. And what they did smartly, I think, is that they had multiple copies on the same kind of communication idea, but they took multiple kind of videos, multiple ads. So I think that's the first point which I felt, really allowed it to stand over others. I think the other thing was that longevity, which is basically they have had it for a year now, and I think a bit more. So again, having the campaign or the communication idea on air for a long period of time, because what we saw yesterday as well, that frankly speaking, from a wear out perspective, there's very little wear out that happens over a period of an ad. So if you have an outstanding copy, the wear out effects are pretty limited. So you're much better actually running it, because if you go to something else, you start building those kind of memory structures, takes you a bit of time, so it's better to just continue them. The third one, I didn't talk about it yesterday, is the whole concept of edge. How do you position yourself? And I think these guys, I really liked it from a strategic clarity perspective. Aziz talked about it yesterday as well. Samar talked about it as well. From a strategic clarity perspective, I still remember going through their kind of the success story, and they made a very good point, which is basically it's very difficult to stand apart just on health, because nobody checks which oil has how many trans fats or whatever, because it's very difficult for you to do. And once you cook something, again, you can't tell which one is healthy and which one is not. And then the second element that a lot of the companies focus on is health. After health, they focus on is great taste. And again, taste is also very subjective, right? So it's very difficult for you to say that it would taste better in A and it doesn't taste better in Dalda. So they were very clear about it, that while we deliver on these things, so again, our product is good, it's healthy and stuff, we want to position ourselves on the Mamta thing, which is something that we've had for many, many years. So they positioned it on the whole Mamta concept. So that's for me the edge part. I think I talked about it, is the distinctive assets. In the assets bit, I think they leverage this Jahan Dalda Wahan Mamta bit, I think, amazingly well. This has been there since I was a kid. For 20-30 years, they've had the same line. So I think it's a distinctive asset for them. And that distinctive asset builds recall. So yesterday I showed a chart which talked about the fact that, if you just have the brand name, and if you have a tagline in a way, asset, it actually enhances the memory of your ads. The ad recall goes up significantly because of that. And the last thing I think is the reach bit. And after roughly, I think 70 to 80% of their spend is going on TV, which is the biggest mass medium in Pakistan. Yes, there is a shift happening to digital and stuff, but I think still TV is pretty significant. So they focused on the reach as well. So I think from that perspective, I really liked this campaign because it checked all the kind of boxes, framework that it's my. I should maybe copyright it, but anyway, this is my framework. So I think based on this kind of a thing, I really like this. And I think the things that I developed, it's not just this one campaign, but this is the one that came top of mind. For my talk, I went through 60-70 FE case studies, and some of the really good ones actually had a lot of these assets. We yesterday talked about the CSE 1000. I really liked their kind of. If I meet their team, I would congratulate them as well, because their whole kind of the distinctive asset, the way they used it, I think it's amazing. So there's some really good campaign. Pepsi did amazing job. I really loved their Why Not Mary Jaan campaign. So these are some of the ones that I really stood out. Again, referring back to something that we talked about yesterday as well. So again, for myself, I'm actually coming from Procter & Gamble, so I spent a lot of my kind of formative years in marketing in P&G. And P&G, unfortunately, is known for very kind of functional advertising and stuff. So I think, when you grew up, you're like, oh, side by side, my washing powder washes stuff better. There's a molecule coming, it blasts through all the dirt and stuff. So I think that's my kind of, starting point. But I think somewhere along the line, I think what we started realizing is that the whole kind of the role that emotions play in the whole advertisements and communication. And I think that's something that I put over there as well, again, coming from the Ehrenberg Bass people, that historically what people thought that rational and emotional. Now it's more emotional. So the new worldview in terms of advertisement is rational and emotional. Emotional and rational. So you catch somebody with the emotions, and then you maybe deliver the rational message in there. Versus we used to say that it's very rational approach. And the reason for that, I think, is the fact that there's some really good work that came out of Daniel Kahneman, the book, the Thinking Fast and Thinking Fast and Slow. So it talks about the system 1, system 2. And I think that even the Professor Byron Sharp talks about the fact that, you have to trigger some emotions with somebody which tells a person, hey, this is interesting, I need to pay attention to this, and that's when you maybe start getting that person with the rational message. If you bombard him with the rational message, they will filter it out, because system 1, human brain, it's very lazy. It doesn't want to indulge in something where it feels that I would not get any reward for this. So I think that's the thing that emotion, I think, is the key things. And I think something that we talked yesterday, that it needs to be leaving you with a happy kind of a thing at the conclusion, maybe a bit of surprise. In PNG, we used to have this kind of a thing which used to say that, think of, when you're evaluating a communication idea or a copy or an ad, think of 4 Fs. 4 F stood for, is it a fresh piece? Is it stale? Is it something that has been done to death, or is it something that's new? So I think that was one key parameter. Second one was, is it focused on the benefit of the product? I think that's a good one. And then the third one was that does it leave you with a nice feeling? So again, we talked about the emotions, the positive emotions, the happiness, surprise. So I think these are the 3 things. And then the fourth one is whether it's flexible and it can be used across multiple mediums, I think. But the paramount ones are the first 3 ones: focused, feeling, and is it fresh or not. So I think these are the things that I normally look for when we actually get, when we roll out a brief and we get some kind of an ideas and stuff. Is it focused on the benefit? Does it leave it with a nice feeling in the sense happiness, surprise, and then is it fresh as well? I think the paramount role, I think a lot of these things I talked about yesterday, that, creativity, if I go back, I think that the 2 pieces of information that I shared yesterday. One was a research from the Nielsen people, shared via Professor Mark Ritz, and we talked about the fact that when Nielsen did a kind of research in terms of creative uplift on the business, so a few big elements were, the reach. But one of the biggest one, or roughly half of it, 50% or 48% was creativity. So I think it's paramount. Your work needs to be creative. And again, but creativity also needs to be, we need to put the creativity in the marketing framework. And that's where, we brought in the learnings from the System 1 people yesterday, where it talks about the fact that it shouldn't leave people with of course, it shouldn't leave people with a neutral feeling where they feel that, blah, whatever, so I don't care. But it should also not leave people with, feeling of contempt, disgust, fear, because these, they actually lower the effectiveness of a creative as well. So again, happiness, surprise, so those are the key elements that you need to focus. Again, I will go back to this, the System 1 thing, because, we were talking about it, and I think I was talking to Samar afterwards as well, that yesterday, that, the things connected very well, that, I kind of like introduced the whole System 1 framework, and actually he showed you how they actually measure the thing over a period of time. So I think I would tell people that, in terms of creativity or ads and stuff, try to test your work. So, before you roll it out, so don't go on whim. I think what you can do, and again, something that, we didn't discuss yesterday, but the System 1 people actually, and I think Summer talked about it a bit yesterday. When you send the system, copy for testing to System 1, they can actually tell you that, what are the points at which the emotions turn, and maybe, is there a point where people actually start feeling anger or disgust? Maybe, you can turn it down or something. Or, are there any kind of points where the happiness is elevated? So again, what you can do is you can actually do a very kind of a second by second analysis of the final output. And if there are kind of changes that you can make, I think you can do it pretty well. So I think these are the kind of things. So again, the key thing that I would, maybe not a benchmark, but kind of my plea to the marketing community, or is, and that's the reason I did the talk yesterday as well, is actually to be a bit more evidence based. Don't go on conjectures. So like it shouldn't be like, oh, let's do this because I feel like it, or my aunt thinks that this is a cool idea. So again, say why do you do it? And now there's a lot of really solidly backed data from Edinburgh-based people, from System One, and there's so many more that you can actually use to actually do what we call the evidence-backed marketing. So I think that would be my kind of key thing to everybody. And one last bit, maybe just to the people that see, again, it's a lot of it is very, it's very, you can approach it. It's very approachable. So you don't have to go through a lot of, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get that data. So just connected with some of these top people on LinkedIn. They keep on posting their things. They have a lot of these Edinburgh past people. They have their own websites where they keep on publishing their articles. Even the System One people that I talked about, all the stuff that I shared yesterday, they have lots of case studies over there which can actually help you, learn a lot. So again, just get into the habit of learning. You can buy these books from the Edinburgh-based people. You can actually sign up for a lot of free webinars as well. The System One does a kind of a webinar every so often, and so Mark Ritson does webinars and stuff. You can read his articles on Marketing Week. So there's so many things that you can actually go about reading that can actually help you step up from the marketing that anybody can do versus a marketing that actually shows that you have a well-tuned marketing brain. I think that the key thing which has changed is the fact that the channel focus has expanded. Historically it used to be a bit uni-channel focused in terms of one or two when I mean channel, it means TV or whatever. So, but I think now that there's a kind of proliferation of different channels which you have to go after. So for example, you go after TV, but then you go after Meta and Google. But then now again, I think slowly but surely the streaming platforms are coming up. So we have Tamasha there, we have Myco. We were talking with a few other people that they're setting up their platforms as well. So in terms of the reach, I think it's evolving. So the way we can reach the people, the search thing didn't used to be there. So now the search bit is happening. So I think that's one thing that's evolving. The second thing which is evolving is this whole fact about that, Samsung Pakistan now over the last 1 year, the platform has been there, but we've started promoting it more, is that we have a D2C platform. We have Samsung.com where you can actually go and buy all of our products and stuff. So that's something that we're really kind of leveraging now technologically. And what we're doing is we're trying to make it more accessible for people sitting at home to make the buying decision. So recently and slowly, we're actually we're enabling it more. So for example, we started out with, we could actually just make manual payments and stuff. You could only do COD, so we increased the COD limit over there. We will now be starting IBFT, so we have a limited IBFT. We will go for automated IBFT. Recently, we partnered with SimPesa, so now all the digital wallets are there. We hopefully shortly we should be going for a buy now pay later. So we're evolving. We're hoping to start a trade-in on our website as well. So what we're trying to do is again evolve with the buying, the viewing habits, and evolve with the shopping habits of the consumers. So those are the things I think where we are evolving, and I think it's an ongoing thing. I think one of the evolution that we're looking towards, and it's very kind of initial, is how does the AI thing impact our productivity. So there's going to be a really good talk today by Abbas. So we took a course with them. Bass actually led a course, I think like a month back. So we took that. All of my team took that. So I think that's something that we're looking towards, how it can help us increase the productivity of our creative work. How can it help us increase the productivity and maybe the depth of concepts that we make? Because Abbas showed a lot of good things in which you can use ChatGPT as a typical consumer and ask him some very good question, and it can really help you craft a really strong concept. So I think that's the next step, but we have not done it, but I think we're looking forward to it.